Jill is studying a strange bacteria, and when she first looked at the bacteria, there are 1,000 cells in the sample. The next day, the cells had roughly doubled to 2,000 cells. Intrigued, she came back the next day to find 4,000 cells. Should the graph of this situation be linear or curved? That's A. And then finally, create a table and graph the situation. The inputs are the days that have passed after she first began to study the sample, and the outputs are the number of cells of bacteria. So when I take a look at this, if I started out with 1,000 at day 0 and she came back at day 1, there were 2,000. The second day she came back 4,000. The third day, if we continue, it would be 8,000, then 16,000, then 32,000. So each day the number of bacteria is doubling. And this is a graph in that situation. You can see I've got down below days is my x-axis. I've got 0 to 6 there. Couldn't go any further than that. In fact, 1600 was the largest y value I could hit, but you can see I'm doubling it, and this is clearly a curve. This is not a line. And in fact, I know that this is an exponential function. We're talking about that in class, and I think we're getting to a point where we're starting to recognize this curve. It makes sense to me that this would be continuous because I could have, unlike the ball bounce where it's the ball bounces are very discrete, right? It bounced once, it bounced twice. It makes sense to talk about 1.5 days, right? A half day is 12 hours. So I could talk about, fractional parts of days being hours, and the values in between would make sense. So I made this a continuous function. I connected the dots. I certainly don't think this is discrete. My domain are all values of x that are greater than 0. So as long as x is positive, I think this makes sense. And my y values are those numbers that are greater than 1,000 because I started with 1,000 bacteria at day 0. So those are the two restrictions that I put on the domain and the range. What else did I write down here? I said negative x and negative y values are not possible. Well, that's the same thing as saying that that x's are greater than equals 0 and y's are greater than 1,000.